Right. Oh, right. Good afternoon, members. I'd like to open this October hybrid meeting of the Flinty County Council's Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Richard Lloyd and I'll be chairing the meeting today. And I welcome committee members, officers and members of the public and press and anyone watching on the Council's website. Planning Committee members in the chamber today, as well as myself, we have Councillors Bill Crease, Paul Johnson, Gladys Healy, Mike Pearce, Ted Palmer, Sean Bibby, Alan Marshall, Chris Bithell, Mike Allport and Billy Mullen. And those attending remotely, we have Councillors Paul Cunningham and Councillor Carol Ellis. Can I just give a welcome to Chief Officer for Place and Growth, that's David Fitzsimon, who would like members to stay for 10 minutes at the end of the meeting, if possible, just to say a few words to you. Thank you for that. Can I now invite Matthew Parry Davis, the Service Manager for Development, to set out the principles of this hybrid meeting today. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a hybrid meeting and is being live streamed via the Council's website, and a recording of the live stream will be placed on the website as soon as possible, usually within 24 hours of this meeting. There are a mix of people speaking either in the chamber or joining online, and some of those have submitted a statement to be read out if they can't get to the meeting or lose connection. And I have copies of those to be read out at the appropriate time. In terms of process, the Chair will describe the item and then the case officer will present the application. Any late representations will then be read out if we have any. If we have any speakers to make third-party representations, either here or in the chamber or joining online, they will be heard in the following order: a speaker against, a speaker for, a speaker from the town or community council, followed by the local member. At this point, we accept a proposition from one of the members of the committee, then a seconder, followed by any debate and any questions by members before the application is summed up by the proposer, and the vote is then taken by colleagues from legal services. For members, please remember to wait until you've heard the officer's presentation and all of the representations on the application before making any proposal. For those members joined online, you can use the virtual hand up if you want to make a proposal or raise a question, and the Chair will bring you in at the appropriate time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Matthew. Yes, virtual hand up there. Councillor Caladalis, please. Did you want to come in for something? Yes, Carol.
Sorry, my hand was up. Thank you, Chair. Just to give apologies. I just didn't want to miss out on giving apologies for Councillor Adele Davis-Cook.
Yeah, thank you for that, Carl. Yeah, I have a voicemail, so I was going to...
Oh, right, okay.
Well,
right.
Thank you for that, just in case you missed it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the agenda then. The first item on the agenda is apologies. We've had apologies from Councillors Chris Dolphin, Adele Davis-Cook and Hilary McGill. I don't think we've had any more because I think we've got the right number now. I just noticed Councillor Andrew Parker is online. He's just observing today, has done the training, but doesn't feel that he can vote on anything today hasn't had a chance to look at the agenda properly, hasn't had enough time. So thank you for that. Agenda item 2 are declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest on any items on the agenda today at all? Councillor Cunningham. You're on mute, Councillor Cunningham.
Cornish School is in my ward, Chair, that's all.
Okay, I wouldn't have thought that would have been a prejudicial interest. Okay, thanks for letting us know, Councillor Cunningham. No others? Okay. Agenda item 3 are late observations. We have some late observations which will be read out just before we come to that item on the agenda. Agenda item 4 are the minutes. To confirm as correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of September 2025. I'll go through them page by page. Page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6 is blank. So can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sean Bibby, Councillor Gladys Healy. Thank you. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, agenda item. Did you want to speak, Paul?
Just a question on the minutes. Quite unusually, you said you were going to formally write to the leader of the political group. Have you received a response from that? Or are we just going for the minutes for their correctness? And I'll raise that with you separately later.
Yeah, I did write to the Flintshire People's Voice group leader and had a reply saying this moment in time, it's not really in the principles of the Flintshire People's Voice group to join the planning committee. So I wait. He said they would look at it for the future, but that's the last I heard. Okay, thank you for raising that. Oh. Okay, agenda item 5, items to be deferred. That's by officers. No items to be deferred. Agenda item 6 are the reports of the Chief Officer Planning and Environment, or should I say Place and Growth now? It does say Planning and Environment here. So moving on to agenda item 6.1, that's a full application. It's a construction of a new carbon dioxide spur pipeline and an above ground installation plus ancillary works and equipment to serve the Pagewood carbon capture and storage project at linear route between Pagewood AGI and Northerpool AGI. And the officer presenting the item is Hannah Parrish. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Darpo. So this application before us today is effectively an 11-kilometre underground pipeline that would span from the Pagewood Cement Works. Unfortunately, the graphic before you doesn't really show the line very clearly. So I think maybe the next one, that's a little bit clearer. So apologies for the image there. So the proposal, as I said, if we look at the linear feature starting from the Pagewood Cement Works, which is towards the bottom of the page there, I'm sure members are familiar with the Pagewood Cement Works campus as it is. So consent has been granted under the Development of National Significance regime for a carbon capture storage plant there. And the proposal is already consented in terms of that plant. This pipeline would effectively join from the Pagewood Cement Works, going through the wards of, Buckley Bistro East, Buckley Bistro West, Mould, Argoid and, apologies, I don't know why my papers haven't printed out there. So it's effectively Buckley Bistro East, Buckley Bistro West, Argoid and New Brighton, Mould and Northup. So joining from Pagewood to the consented carbon dioxide pipeline that was consented under the National Infrastructure regime under a development consent order. So those pieces of infrastructure consented. This pipeline effectively is the missing link from Pagewood to Northerpool. The application also includes above ground installation, which is plant, kit, a kiosk, pipes. If we go on to a further graphic, we'll come back to that one. So this is the above ground installation at Northerpool, which has been consented. And sorry, no, this is the Pagewood site. And then the next image shows the Pagewood plants. The northwest corner of the consented carbon capture storage facility is a compound area for the above ground installation, which is before us. If we go on the previous slide, it shows that's the site area. The one before shows the elevation of what that is, effectively fencing, compounds, pipes. So as I said before, the pipe goes from Padeswood up to Northup Hall, crossing 11 kilometres, and it would be a 16-inch steel pipe. So there's a cross section of the pipe there. It would be buried at a minimum depth of 1.2 metres, and the construction corridor, where there is open trenched construction methods, would be 25 metres wide to allow construction activity to take place. And there are areas where there are directional drilling methods, so trenchless methods, where they would go under woodland, other crossing points, major roads, watercourses, etc. The above ground installation at Pades would be a maximum height of 5 metres. So in the context of the Padeswood works, the existing plant, the existing kiln is over 100 metres high. The consented development of national significance carbon capture storage plant is 118 metres high. So if you imagine, this is quite a small piece of infrastructure in a very large industrial setting, and all the other development that's sought consent through this application is underground. So in terms of objections, there's been no objections from statutory consultees. As reported in the committee report at page 20, there's been 16 objections, and since the committee report was published, there's been 12 objections received, which are within the late observations. And as stated in there, they don't raise additional matters that haven't been already covered in the report. So, just excuse me a second. The principle of transporting carbon dioxide underground has been accepted by the consented HyNet carbon dioxide pipeline that was consented under the NCIP regime. The carbon capture plant at Padeswood has been consented, and this route would effectively provide the missing link between Padeswood and Northup Hall. So the application seeks permission for the underground pipe, the above ground installation at Padeswood, and some infrastructure at Northup Hall that will be required. Subject to the imposition of conditions as set out within the committee report at 2.2, and also appended in full at page 53 of your report. The conditions are listed, subject to a mechanism to secure the management for a minimum of 30 years to ensure long-term security for net benefit for biodiversity. There's no reason for this to be refused. So I would recommend, as before you, that this should be granted.
Thanks. Thank you, Anna. Thank you. We do have some late observations on this one. I'll just ask Matthew to read through those. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So following the publication of the report, as Hannah says, an additional 12 letters of objection have been received from landowners whose farm businesses would be affected by the proposed pipeline route. Matters raised by the letters of objection include detrimental harm to the natural environment, farmland and the wider community. The application fails to fully assess and prepare an impact statement of the proposal upon agricultural businesses affected by the pipeline route. The application does not attempt to mitigate the impact or provide reasonable alternatives to mitigate this impact. Extensive harm to multiple ecological habitats, trees, hedgerows, flora and fauna, and potential impacts from carbon capture and storage, including the long-term impacts on the environment and associated health and safety issues capturing and transporting carbon dioxide is unknown, and impact on holiday rental business. So our response to those is that no new material considerations have been raised by letters received after the report has been published. The matters raised within the late representations are considered at paragraphs 7.33 to 7.58 with regards to impacts on biodiversity and trees, paragraphs 7.62 to 7.68 with regards to impacts on land, soil and agriculture, and paragraph 7.78 to 783 with regards to health and safety. As stated in the report, the proposal, should it be granted consent, would have a temporary and short-term impact during the construction of the proposed pipeline and subsequent decommissioning. This impact would be temporary in nature, and once fully constructed, the pipeline would be below ground and the land above would be restored back to agricultural use and not sterilised. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. We do have some third-party representation. That's the speaker for, that's the applicant, and that's Cerys Percival. Cerys, I presume it's got to be you. You have 3 minutes, Cerys. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Cerys Percival and I'm speaking on behalf of Liverpool Bay CCS Limited in support of the Padeswood carbon dioxide spur pipeline. The development is crucial in the UK's net zero transition to address the significant and urgent climate challenge, enabling the safe transport of captured carbon dioxide from the Heidelberg Materials cement works in Padeswood to the already consented above ground installation at Northup Hall. Here, it would connect to the main onshore carbon dioxide pipeline, allowing the captured CO2 to be transported and securely stored in depleted natural gas fields beneath Liverpool Bay. The proposed 11-kilometre buried pipeline is designed to operate safely and efficiently in line with UK pipeline regulations and safety standards. This application connects the carbon capture plant at Padeswood, granted through a Development of National Significance application in March this year, and the main onshore carbon dioxide pipeline granted through a Development Consent Order in 2024. The development of the Padeswood Spur pipeline is the next link in the greater overall development and aims to capture approximately 800,000 tonnes of CO2 a year being emitted from the Padeswood cement works in a project that has the backing of UK and Welsh government. Put simply, this application is a crucial enabling link in a programme that is of national and strategic importance to both Wales and the wider UK. Our Liverpool Bay Transport and Storage project will help support thousands of jobs in North Wales and the North West and will help to protect many more for the future. Extensive consultation has taken place and feedback from stakeholders and the local community has helped us to shape the final application being considered today. Local residents' concerns have been addressed within the committee report and temporary construction impacts will be carefully managed in line with best practice guidance and in full compliance with the conditions set out by planning officers. We continue to work with all landowners and their agents as well as the NFU to ensure that the short-term inconvenience during construction does not overshadow the long-term benefits the scheme will offer the region. The environmental statement shows that the proposed development, enabled by detailed routing and optioneering processes, has been able to avoid highly environmentally sensitive habitats, protected species and features. This, along with the use of mitigation measures during construction and operation, will ensure there are no unacceptable adverse impacts to the environment. It's important to note that no statutory consultees, including HENEP and NRW, have raised objections, which further reinforces the robustness of the proposal. This development supports national and local carbon reduction targets, facilitates a low-carbon economy and aligns with Flintshire County Council's Climate Change Strategy 2022 to 2030. It delivers economic and social value, protecting and creating jobs and contributing to a sustainable and prosperous future for the region in full compliance with and supported by national and local planning policies, including Future Wales, Planning Policy Wales Edition 12 and the adopted LDP. I respectfully urge the committee to consider the full range of benefits this proposal offers and support Planning Office's recommendation to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Cerys. Yeah, well timed. You raced it up pretty quickly. Well done. You must have timed yourself previously, I think. Well done, thank you. Councillor Bethel, did you want to speak as one of the 9 local members first, or did you want to wait till we have a proposition? Do you want to speak first? You can do if you like. Yeah.
I propose that I'm making the proposition, acceptance of the report, and the recommendations. Do you want me to speak now in relation?
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bibby, that was. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I've got 1 or 2 questions I'd like to ask, but I'm happy with the proposal as it stands. It's been some time in the making, this, because again, we've heard a great deal about it. It looks a bit embarrassing looking at the report because the number of local members have been consulted and no responses, and similarly with town and community councils. And I think the basis of that is the fact that, basically we've all been visited. For example, the town council in Mulberry had a visit from the proposers. They spent something like 3/4 of an hour with us. They told us exactly what was going to take place, and they answered all the questions and concerns that we had at that time. And I'm sure they did that with the town and community councils and with other members. So it's been well thought out and well considered as I see it. And that's the reason why there hasn't been a huge reaction. And again, the 28 people who responded or expressed concerns or objections. Again, that's very small considering the number of areas that this particular pipeline will go through. So I think on the whole, people generally are supportive of this particular proposal. With regard to the 25 years, I guess that's in fact in relation to the fact that hopefully within 25 years' time, 2050, the carbon issue will have been dealt with really generally, and there'll be very little carbon, if any, to be actually removed and dealt with at that time. But if that particular target isn't particularly achieved, then will the pipeline continue to operate, and indeed, will they need a fresh application or a renewal of the existing application in order to continue with that? That's one question, if I may. On page 14, it mentions, for example, at the top of the page, a declaration prepared by a suitably competent person confirming that the site is or has been made safe and stable. I'm just wondering who that suitable person will be, capable suitable person will be, if you can tell me that, please. Again, page 16 and 17, sorry, page 19, sorry, regarding the Ramblers. Have the Ramblers' concerns now been addressed to their satisfaction? It was not clear from the report that that is the case. On page 23, bullet point 5 mentions a blast wall. I'm a bit alarmed about that. Perhaps that could be explained, what the blast wall is there for. Are we expecting any blasts from this? I'm not sure if that could be explained. On page 36, in relationship to the trees that have to come down, I think 13 are mentioned there, and 13 groups of trees. But again, I'm very happy with the fact that in terms of long-term maintenance, that that will be addressed by the applicants if any of those particular trees fail. And again, I'm happy with the fact that whole lengths of hedgerows where they need to be gone through will be removed and put back. I think that's very, very reassuring as well. So I'm happy with that. In terms of the 25-metre gap that's going to be created to lay the pipeline, is 25 metres essential? We're talking about a 1.2-metre pipeline. Again, I put a narrower gap, enable them to actually facilitate this laying of the pipeline in a narrower particular trench or area. I mentioned trenchless crossings. I think Hannah's explained that. They can go under a road without actually digging up the road. Is that correct? And lanes and so on, they can actually push the pipe under the road in those circumstances. Yeah, if those could be answered, I'd be grateful. But on the whole, I'm quite satisfied with this. I can remember as a boy, some years ago, going for walks with my grandparents and my parents and asking them what these little black gates were along country lanes. Most of them are actually rotted away now. And I was told that's where the pipeline from the Alwyn Reservoir goes under to Birkenhead. And the Alwyn Reservoir was built in between 1909 and 1921. You'd be hard pressed. Most of those wooden gates have rotted away. You'd be hard pressed to actually identify where that pipeline was actually laid. And more recently than that, I can remember 1974, again, I go back that far, with the laying of the Shell pipeline from Amlwch through to Standell. And again, I can remember, huge gaps being cut through forest areas and so on to lay that pipeline. Again, that pipeline is no longer used, but you'd be hard pressed to actually say that's where the pipeline went through this area. Nature has recovered greatly. And again, with the conditions that apply nowadays and have been outlined in this report, I'm sure it'll be even more unidentifiable where this particular disruption has taken place in order to lay the pipeline. So I'm quite happy with the proposal and formally move.
Thank you, Councillor Bitter, thank you. Yeah, so those pipelines must have lasted well, haven't they, even though they're not in use. Councillor Bibby, as the seconder, would you like to add anything there?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think everything has been covered by Councillor Biffle.
Thank you, Councillor Bibby. Councillor Pearce.
Right, thank you, Chair, and thank the officer for a comprehensive report. Looking at the list of drawings there, you've done well to go through all of them and produce a report that can be reasonably understood. There are some things that I just need to ask a couple of questions on. How long will the construction time be from start to finish? And similarly, where this goes through farmers' land, how long would they be excluded from their land? And I agree with Councillor Bissell that 25 metres does seem wide. In Buckley Redrow put a pipe through from their development at Heathlands right down to Harden Brook, and that went across fields and across the road, but certainly the trench wasn't much wider than the pipe. So yeah, I'd be interested to know why it's that big. Will the excavations take place starting at Pagewood and progressing through to Northup, or will there be simultaneous excavations so that the work would perhaps be done quicker rather than just start at one end and progress through? Yeah, I also had a question on condition 2, the operations to cease in 25 years. I couldn't quite understand that. Surely if the carbon is still there, you would still want to move it. So yeah, I don't know what the reason for that is. The map you put up before, and it was document PW 3.4.16.3, and that is the construction traffic. Now I've had a look at that. We're going to have some very big hotspots around the Wilver roundabout and the new Brighton traffic lights and the lanes between the tavern at Altamy and Stockton. You know, there'll be a lot of construction traffic there. So how are we going to manage it? Because the Wilver roundabout at the best of times is quite busy. So I think we've got to look at where the potential hotspots are and really sort of look at how we're going to deal with the traffic. Again, I mentioned the experience I had with the Redrow pipe in the ward. Is there an easement required each side of the pipe? Because in that situation, although the pipe is fairly well into the ground, no hedgerows have been replanted over the top. You can see where the pipeline is because there's wooden fences there. Any water pipes, drains, electric cables encountered during the pipeline excavations, how will they be dealt with? Do you know where these are? Because excavating without knowing where they are could lead to some potential damage. I accept that it talks about specialist trenchless installation, which I regard that to be tunneling. Do we know where they are going to go? And there's also temporary construction compounds that's required. Where will they be located? Will they be located in fields out of the way, or will they impact on the construction traffic as well? And finally, the wildlife assessments along the route have they all been carried out to minimise any disruption to wildlife? Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Paul Johnson, you were next. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. It's a bit personal observation more than anything else. Is starting off from the very fact that I actually can live about 200 yards from the gas pipeline, which goes up Holcombe Mountain. So I would just suggest to have a bit of familiarity with underground pipes. This pipe goes across a triple SI. It crosses fields and common lands, and my observation would be that there's very little impact on the wildlife from the sheep. It's been there for many, many years now, and the sheep just seem to wander around it and across it and whatever. I'd be surprised how many people actually know it's there. If you like me, I think Councillor Bissell and myself are very similar. His black marker posts, I've noticed a little red sign saying this is the gas line going across the mountain. So very, very innocuous in the way it goes. I mean, and I know that issues have been raised about the detrimental harm to the natural environment and farmland, whatever. But looking where I am now, I'm just wondering, well, if these are the cases, I think I'd have liked to have seen examples of where there have been a detrimental impact of a similar programme on wildlife and on the on the farmlands. Yeah. And I think also just in terms of the impact on the wider community, if that's going back to where these little red posts are, I would be very surprised if many people actually knew where the gas pipeline actually runs. It's only when you realise it actually goes and runs under a far more intrusive set of electrical cables and pylons which go all the way from Connors Quay to the coast. They'd actually know they were there. The other thing I would like to ask further about is the 106 that is mentioned. It comes in the I think it's paragraph 2. It comes into paragraph 1, paragraph 3.06 and 7.55. I completely agree with that, but it's going to be done separately. But it does. I know it's something I've gone back to from a couple of years back now. But again, the details of what it's going to be about, I am struggling to understand what exactly you're going to be doing. I have no idea of how much money is going to be expected to support this 106. I have no idea of when the 106 will be required from and when it will be. It does say for 30 years and whatever. And while I'm not going to vote against what's in here, I would like to see the details of that 106, details of what is expected, how much and when is reported back to this committee as soon as that agreement is drawn up. Because I think it's, because again, going back to what I said before about the environment and the habitat, well, back to my observation being that it probably makes very little difference. It is still recognised as something that we need to go and take up and make sure that it is taken forward with. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Gladys Healy, you are next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody, for this report. My question is on the transport of the heavy trucks. These heavy trucks are going to go to and forth all the time. What provision has been made for this? Secondly, if you look on page 48, paragraph 7.103, it says here, let me get my glasses. It says here, the Welsh Government require further information with regards to the safety of the truck road, which would outline in the decision notice and notes which permission should be granted. My point is here, there is a bridge in Pacewood, the train bridge. Are you going to lower that road so the trucks can go underneath there? So has this been addressed, or what is going to happen there? Because to lower the road has been going on for years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Healy. Councillor Carol Ellis online, you are next.
Thank you. My concerns are about highways. It mentions a lot about the trunk roads, but and Councillor Healy has just said now, a lot of the heavy goods vehicles won't be able to go via the Pacewood area, so they'll be coming through areas like Buckley. I can't see any details of traffic management which will be on the A roads. It's just the A and B roads. And there's bound to be diversions as well, isn't there? Well, I'm sure there'd be road closures. It's just how this will impact villages and towns, but we'll have an increase in traffic going through our communities, if you like. And the 106 as well. There's no detail how it will be used, where it will be used, In some respects, I would imagine most communities are going to be affected. Normally, we have the 106 agreements, don't we, along with the planning application. I was just wondering, like other councillors, how much would it be? What cost? What use? Will community centres, will football clubs, will village halls, will they benefit from it? How will the communities that are going to be affected be compensated, if you like? I'd like to see a lot more information about that as well. Will the wildlife voluntary sector, will they be compensated to help with their work? I'd like to see a lot more information. I realise it's such a big job, but I would have thought that we should have that information, Chair. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
You're welcome, Carol. Okay, thank you. Any other members before I bring the officer back to answer quite a few questions there, always. No? Okay. Over to you, Anna. Good luck.
Thank you, Chair. Right, I'm going to try and take one by one, and please shout if I've missed anything. So, Councillor Bithell, your first question was in regards to the 25-year of the lifespan, and that's indicative of the lifespan of the plant that's got consent, the carbon capture plant at Padeswood. So it's all been predicated around the life of the plant. And that's how it's been presented to us. That's got a 25-year lifespan, so therefore this should have a 25-year lifespan. With regards to condition 14, you referred to a competent person. So that is in relation to stability and the requirements of the Mining Remediation Authority. So once we get that scheme required by condition 14, should planning permission be granted, the condition sets out the stipulations prior to carbon dioxide first being transported. A scheme would come in with regards to stability. We would consult the Mining Remediation Authority, who are the coal authority. So they're the competent people. So it's the wording that they've requested. So in terms of Ramble is concerned, it's reported on page 19 at 3.12 in terms of diversions and permanent and temporary diversions, but also the rights of way officers being consulted and is happy with regards to the provisions made within the application detail. I appreciate that the application was submitted with lots of supporting information. The report is already some pages long, so we try not to include a detail that we try and make sure the limited details for sufficient for you to make a decision, but in effect the public rights of way officer is satisfied with the proposals in terms of dealing with rights of way in terms of temporary diversions, etc., or permanent diversions. The blast wall, with regards to the detail of the development on page 23. Bear with me. So this is in relation to the above ground installation, and that's with regards to safety, with storing gas, effectively, just a safety mechanism for the infrastructure there. So it's not like a blast that I talked to you about in terms of quarrying and stuff like that. So in terms of the trees, I think you were happy with regards to the measures that are being proposed in the Landscape Environmental Management Plan. Concerns about the width of the 25 metres, that's to allow sufficient space for storage of materials. You imagine the trench needs to be a certain width for the pipe, and any the soil that comes out will need to be stored, so there needs to be space for that. Matthew was saying that this room's about 25 metres wide, so you need to think about safety for the operatives in terms of the equipment that will need to be on site, putting the pipe in the ground, storage of the soils, So that's what's before us. But members need to be reminded it's a temporary operation and it would be done in phases, and we would require a scheme for those phases so we would know when they're going to be taking place. With regards to trench, so most of the pipeline would be an open trench, and anywhere such as ancient woodlands or major roads or watercourses would be trenchless by directional drilling. So that would hopefully avoid, for example, on major highways, things like diversions and such like. So moving on to Councillor, sorry, Councillor Little, has that addressed all your questions?
Could you just ask,
Could
I just ask where trees are removed, would the trees that go back in be the same variety that have been actually removed?
So the applications would require, should planning permission be granted, we'd require a landscape environmental management plan, and the arboricultural officer is happy with the proposals and happy with the net benefit for biodiversity as well. And in terms of the species in the detail, that would be in the detailed plan when we get it at a discharge condition stage. So moving on to Councillor Pearce, you asked how long the construction would be. So that it's estimated at 18-month project, but it would be done in phases, and that detail is something we would require by condition. You mentioned the farmland and disruption to that. That would be a temporary impact on farmland during the construction, and then remediation and restorations all going to be required by condition, and the detail of that and the detail of how soils are stored to ensure soils are protected, so that when they go back into the ground, the farmland will be equally the quality is what is replaced what was there before. We've talked about the 25-metre width and phasing, and the 25-year lifespan. Construction traffic, with regards to, I will say a little bit about construction traffic, but then divert to Sue Thomas on the line. But the application is accompanied by a outline construction traffic management plan, and should planning permission be granted, we'd require a detailed management plan for each phase of the development, so that once that detail's been submitted, we'll reconsult our specialist consultees to make sure that they wouldn't have impact on the highways. There will be 28 temporary access points throughout the length of the pipeline route, and those will be reinstated once that section of the pipeline has been completed. You asked about, shall we bring Sue in now? I'm just wondering, yeah, is that okay?
Sue, would you like to come in on the traffic management?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to confirm to members, we've got no objection to the proposal in front of you, subject to conditions. They're noted in 2.02 of the report in front of you, conditions 21 through to 23. Those do include conditions for the full details of the 28 access points to be submitted and approved, a full construction traffic management plan, again to be submitted and approved, and construction workers travel plan, again to be submitted and approved. Members mentioned in terms of the routing of traffic, that will be captured in the construction traffic management plan. Obviously, it will not include any low structures, whereas access would be prevented, and we'll stick to primarily the major routes in terms of the trunk road, A roads and B roads. There will be a requirement for some temporary traffic management, but that will be dealt with under separate legislation under the New Roads and Streetworks Act. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sue. Councillor Pearce, you mentioned compounds as well, didn't you?
There are a number of temporary construction compounds located. I've seen some drawings and they cover quite a big area, a lot of equipment to be stored there. So again, they'll be, I imagine, close to those 28 access points that you said. So are they in fields? Or are they just off the road where we're actually Can you give us a couple of examples where they might be?
Right, in terms of, I'll come back to you on that, so I'll try and find an image of that. But in terms of your other questions, you were asking about should they, during the construction, come across utilities and such like and pipes. So we've consulted all the utility companies. Initially, Dŵr Cymru had problems with the proposal, but that's been overcome by making sure we've got one of the conditions requires a phasing plan, and the I think it is condition. Sorry, that's the trunk roads. I'll do a control and find. I think that's probably easier on my committee report. Condition 9 and 10. Thank you, Matthew. So page 12, we're requiring a phasing plan. And then condition 10 links to that phasing plan for requiring method statements to make sure whatever the pipe, the trench construction would ensure that the utilities are taken into account, and what would, in terms of the method of how to overcome that. So each phase would have a plan so that we would make sure that no utilities are affected by that. SB Energy Networks, United Utilities, all the main utility companies have commented and have got no objection. You mentioned the wildlife, and I think a few members were asking about the 106. So I'll talk about that together. So the Section 106 agreement may not be required. So that's in relation to securing off-site net benefit for biodiversity. So obviously with the requirements under PPW 12, we may need to make sure that this application complies with those. The developer is offering off-site mitigation, and at the time of the application, the developers have an option on land that they're proposing to put that mitigation on. So I will bring in Sue just after I've just said my piece in terms of this. We were looking at how to secure that, and we've suggested a condition at number 24 to ensure that there's a habitat management plan that would ensure overall net benefit for biodiversity, which would show what creation and what habitats and how we would secure that. It could be that we could secure it by condition, but we want to be able to have delegated authority to enter into a Section 106 agreement for that offsite net benefit for biodiversity, should it transpire that we can't secure it by condition. So that scheme would ensure we have control. If you are minded to grant, subject to the report, and delegated authority for a standalone 106 agreement, it's not in association with other potential infrastructure provision. It's all associated with wildlife mitigation management, net benefit for biodiversity. And NRW haven't got any objections. The county ecologist is satisfied with a detailed construction environmental management plan and a detailed landscape and environmental management plan. So that is turning over to my next page. Councillor Johnson referred to the, sorry, Councillor Pearce. Have you got any? I want to find the plan of all the compounds, but effectively it's by the access points and by so that it's nearby.
We might.
Oh, sorry.
Just wanted to follow up on one item, and Councillor Ellis touched on it, and we've seen it before, where diverted traffic has caused gridlock and things. And given that the construction traffic plan is only an outline, is that correct? I think it would be useful, and maybe this needs to be conditioned, that once you have an approved construction traffic plan, it's then shared with the affected town and community councils so that we can see what we might be expecting in the community. Because, you know, we're looking at this. It's looking for an approval today. But I think if you haven't got an approved plan, I think that should go to the affected town and community councils for them to have a look at it and perhaps to comment on that.
Yeah, I think it is well to inform them, as you say, what to expect is coming really, and I think that's a good idea. Sue, did you want to comment on that? Oh, I thought over the traffic I was thinking first. Yes. Sue, did you want to comment on what Councillor Pearce said about informing?
So there will be a requirement, as I say, by means of condition for the full construction traffic management plan. I'm sure that can be shared with the relevant town and community councils.
Okay, so I'll bring the other Sue in now just to.
Well, just if I come in on. Thank you, through you, Chair. So as Hannah says, there will be there's already a condition there that requires detailed construction management plans to be submitted. And as part of that process, there'll be a formal discharge of condition application. So we can consult with the town and community councils at that stage.
Okay, you're with them. Yeah. Just bring Sue in on the just to add about the 106 agreement. So can you say that?
Thank you. Just to support what Hannah said, really, there is an argument that it can be dealt with by condition and an approval under condition. So Hannah's added some additional wording to condition 24 for what was originally proposed to add in details that there will be how the habitats will be managed, including the mechanism by which such management shall be secured. And so there is an argument to be given the length of time, it's for 30 years to maintain this area of habitat, but it should be dealt with by way of a section 106 agreement to assist in monitoring. And it's just really because of the length of time that it's going to be required. So there is an argument that condition is enough, but we just wanted to add in the ability to be able to require a standalone section 106 agreement if that was required. And that would come as part of the approval of condition 24. And there'd need to be just that delegation to allow the section 106 to be in place. But the section 106 is in relation to the net benefit and the off-site mitigation that's being provided by the developer, by the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Yeah, you got Paul mentioned the 106 as well, didn't you? Got someone else for Paul's question, Chair? I thought.
As a proposer, I accept that particular addition to 24, condition 24.
Okay.
It's in the report.
It's in the report anyway. Yeah.
Just.
So sorry, thank you. I said I'd come back with regards to compounds. So looking through the documents, there's a number of phasing plans, and each compound is by the access, as you say, in terms of the proposed temporary compounds. There's a lot of documents within the report, not my report, within the application. So I think that addresses everything.
I've got a couple more. Councillor Gladys Healy mentioned about transport as well, and mentioned the bridges, didn't you, Gladys? Yeah. Sue, could you just come in again over the question from Gladys about the bridges being not the bridges lowered, but the road?
Yeah, I understand that the colleagues in Street Scene are looking at a scheme for the potential to be able to increase the height beneath the bridge at Padeswood. Obviously that hasn't come to fruition as yet. So any construction traffic management plan will negate the need for access from that side. So access will be in the other direction, back towards Mould, and then up the Mould bypass towards the trunk road to access the site.
Okay, Sue, thank you. Go on, Glenn.
Thank you. Regarding my question regarding the Welsh Government, that hasn't been answered. Has that been addressed? That is on page 48, 7.103.
Chair, my understanding is Welsh Government are a separate consultee, obviously as a consultee for the trunk road, as opposed to ourselves as consultee for the county road network. I understand there's some additional information that's been requested by Welsh Government, and that would be included as part and parcel of any permission that was granted in terms of notes to the applicant on any decision notice.
Okay, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Can I ask, please, I have been told here about the exits. There's quite a number of exits. Can this be circulated to councillors where these exits are going to be and how many?
There are 28 accesses that are proposed as part of the application that's in front of you. The details are within the submission. I think Hannah's mentioned before there's quite a lot of documentation, but I'm sure we can make that particular plan available for members to see where the location of the accesses will be.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, especially to the local members affected by it as well. So thank you, lads. Councillor Ellis, again, I think your question has probably been answered over the traffic management and effect on the towns and villages, Councillor Ellis. Is that okay? You happy with that? Yeah, there's a nod. Okay, thank you. I think it's everybody's questions been answered there. I think we've done okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll just go back to the proposed. That's Councillor Chris Bithell to sum up, please.
I formally move. We've had all the issues covered, I think, again, and concerns have been covered by the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bithell. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the vote then, Susan, please.
Thank you, Chair. The proposition before members is to grant planning permission subject to conditions with delegated authority to the Chief Officer Place and Growth to enter into a Section 106 agreement as a standalone agreement if required pursuant to approvals of Habitat Management Plan Condition 24 as set out in the officer's report. There are three options you can vote for, which is to grant, against, which is to refuse planning permission, or you can abstain. I take the vote. Councillor Richard Lloyd.
For.
4. Councillor Mike Allport. 4. Councillor Sean Bibby. 4. Councillor Chris Bithell. 4. Councillor Bill Crease. 4. Councillor Paul Cunningham.
4.
4. Councillor Carol Ellis.
Abstain.
Abstain. Councillor Gladys Healy. 4. Councillor Paul Johnson. 4. Councillor Alan Marshall. 4. Councillor Billy Mullen. 4. Councillor Ted Palmer. 4. Councillor Mike Pears. 4. That proposition has been carried and planning permission has been granted.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you, members. Okay, how long have we been? An hour. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 6.2. This is an outline application to include means of access. Just bear with me a sec. Do you want to?
Sorry.
Got someone else to do. Okay. But just let Anna leave, and I'll carry on. In fact, I'll carry on anyway. So an outline application to include means of access for the erection of up to 36 residential apartments following the demolition of the Queensferry Hotel at 2 Welsh Road, Garden City. It's recommended for permission, and the officer presenting the item is Claire Morter. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. This is the outline application with all matters reserved apart from the access for the redevelopment of the land at the former Queensferry Hotel. The proposal is to demolish the former public house and erect up to 36 1- and 2-bedroom apartments on the land in 12 separate blocks. New access to the site is proposed with 56 car parking spaces and active travel links in the form of pedestrian and cycle links through to the cycle route adjacent to the River Dee. The site's been vacant for a number of years and is slowly deteriorating and is becoming overgrown. The building is not subject to any historical protection, and its demolition and redevelopment is not considered to cause any adverse impact on the setting of the listed Jubilee Bridge or the Blue Bridge. The brownfield site is located in a Tier 2 settlement, and the principle of residential development is acceptable. Concerns have been raised regarding access and highway safety. The application is supported by details of the new proposed access and demonstrates that a visibility display commensurate with the speed limit of Welsh Road can be achieved. The application has been thoroughly considered by Natural Resources Wales with regards to flood risk, and they raised no objection. Ground levels across the site are to remain as existing, with finished floor levels of the apartments set at 5.6 metres. So for members' benefit, the height of the flood defences which bound the site adjacent to the River Dee are at approximately 8 metres. And NRW are satisfied that this will ensure that the development will remain flood-free. Concerns have also been raised that there is no need for more housing in this location. Whilst the site is opposite to the strategic Northern Gateway development, which is delivering a significant number of new homes, predominantly these are in the form of 2, 3, 4 bed dwellings with a small percentage of apartments. There is a demonstrable need for the type of apartments being proposed, particularly the 20%, which will be for local affordable need. Matters including ecology and neighbouring amenity have been assessed and are considered acceptable. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions as set out at paragraph 2.01 of the report, and the applicant entering into a Section 106 agreement to secure the 20% affordable units, a financial contribution of £55,407 for Harden High School, and a commuted sum for off-site public open space provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. I just wondered why this was subject to a site visit on Monday. So we have some late observations. I'll just hand over to Matthew just to go through those. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So since the report was written, there has been a neighbour objection. It was received on the 20th of October, and it raises an objection to the proposed development due to concerns over the increase in traffic and a lack of access to medical facilities such as GP or dentists in the area. Our response to that objection is outlined in the report. Highway safety, including the new means of access to the site, have been fully assessed and are considered acceptable in principle, and are further safeguarded by the conditions as set out at paragraph 2.01 of the officer's report. Whilst the comments with regard to a lack of local infrastructure such as GP services, these concerns are noted, but this would be a matter for Betsy Cadwallader, who have not provided any comments on the application. Sealand Community Council also raised or resubmitted their objection to the application with regards to highway safety, ecology, flood risk, overdevelopment and impact on neighbouring amenity. And again, our response is an initial objection from the Community Council was received on the 21st of November 2023, noting the same objections as those resubmitted yesterday. All the concerns raised have been assessed during consideration of the application and are outlined in the officer's report. Following the committee site visit on Monday, it suggested that condition 16 is amended to include details of demolition. So the proposed condition shall read, no development shall take place, including site clearance works and demolition of the building, until a construction traffic management plan has been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Okay, we have third party representation again. It's a statement to speaker for, that's from Amy Henson, who is the agent, and a statement, Matthew, have you got that? Yeah. Thank you, through you, Chair. So the statement from the agent, and it reads, this application seeks outline planning permission for redevelopment of the vacant Queensferry Hotel site in Garden City, a Tier 2 settlement in Flintshire Local Development Plan. The proposal is policy compliant, offering much needed 1 and 2 bedroom apartments to meet a clear housing need within the county. The site is brownfield and in a poor state of repair.
The building itself has lost its historic character and suffering from vandalism. Its long-term vacancy means it no longer serves as a viable community facility, and the proposed development will significantly improve the visual amenity of the area. Whilst objections have been raised regarding access and scale, we consider the outward-facing layout respects the River Dee frontage and allows the proposed development to integrate well with the surrounding built form. The scheme utilises the existing access, which will be upgraded, and includes 56 parking spaces, visitor bays and cycle connections. Highways officers support the proposed access arrangements as shown, subject to conditions. Flood risk, ecology and heritage matters have all been thoroughly assessed and are acceptable, with mitigation measures in place. The applicant is happy to contribute £55,407 toward education, £733 per apartment for off-site open space improvements in Sealand and affordable housing on site. This proposal will be a redundant brownfield site, will bring a redundant brownfield site back into use, providing much needed 1- and 2-bedroom dwellings in a highly sustainable location, enhancing the visual amenity of the site and delivering community benefits. We respectfully ask members to support the officer's recommendation and approve the application. Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Councillor Christine Jones is the local member. She sends her apologies for previous engagement, but there's a statement to be read out from Councillor Jones.
Again, thank you through you, Chair. So Councillor Christine Jones says, I wish to strongly oppose the proposal to erect 36 apartments on the site of the Queensferry Hotel in Garden City. I speak on behalf of the majority of residents in Garden City. The main objections to this application are: the application site is adjacent to the River Dee. The planning application proposes a highly vulnerable residential development. The NRW flood risk map confirms the site to be within Zone C1 of the development advice map contained in TAN 15 development and flood risk. The flood map identifies the application site to be at risk of flooding and falls into flood zone 2 and 3 rivers. This is therefore a highly vulnerable development, and this proposal will intensify that risk. The flood defences to the south of the river were never raised. Before the development of the Northern Gateway, only those to the north of the river were. The second objection is that the access to the proposed site is totally unacceptable and is extremely dangerous. The access is immediately before the Jubilee Bridge, where the road curves, and this has never been an access to the Queensferry Hotel. The existing access is opposite the entrance to the new airfields development, which is still being developed. There have been serious accidents and fatalities on this section of the road. A third objection is there's no local need. We've had more than enough houses built in Garden City these past few years with the airfields development, which, as you're aware, is a strategic site in the LDP. We have no doctors or dentists in the locality that can accept any more patients. The school is struggling to accept new pupils and will need extending in the near future. The infrastructure is not in place for any more properties. Could I ask if a full bat and ecology survey has been done, as there were bats in the roof of the hotel? This needs to be carried out prior to demolition. There is also many species of wildlife along the river, which will be disturbed at the demolition and future construction phases. I urge members of the Planning Committee to refuse this application. Thank you, Councillor Christine Jones. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Okay, at this point, can I accept a proposition, please? And all speak at once. Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Crease, thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Right, thank you, Chair. I support the application in principle. It is an outline, and we're looking mainly at the access. For those on the site visit on Monday, we did look at the proposed site access, and it didn't look ideal when you look at it with the existing building, but we know that that building is going to be demolished, and the development that's proposed will take into account the new access, which will give the correct visibility that was from the highways officer on the site visit. I
It came to me about.
sorry.
Councillor Cunningham, are you off? Yeah, okay. If you can stay on mute, yeah, thank you. Councillor Pearce, sorry.
Right, thank you. Just a couple of questions. In the report, it says there are 36 apartments, and in other parts it's up to 36. And in 201, it does talk about affordable dwellings. Now, that really is the only reference in the report until we look at page 82, where the site will provide necessary 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. My question is that in 102, where it says a demonstrated need, I don't see the support for the demonstrated need in the report, because under consultations, there is nothing there from housing strategy. And I'm not making a big issue out of this because this is only outline and we are looking at the access. But going forward, when you say that it's a demonstrated need, I think the committee need to have a look at that demonstrated need. And the evidence would normally come from housing strategy, who are not listed in the consultation. As regards the 20% affordable housing, that's listed in page 80, section 7.26. But should we have a condition which conditions this development for 20% affordable housing? Because we have seen in the past where we look at what the percentage is and should be, and then at the 11th hour, we've had developers coming in with viability issues and saying, oh, I can't deliver that level of affordable housing, we need to drop it. So can we make the 20% affordable a condition in this? And when the reserve matters comes back, can we have some supporting evidence from housing strategy? But overall, I support this application. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Pearce. Councillor Bill Crease, please, as the seconder. Would you anything to add there? Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce has raised, the only concern I had was to ensure that we try and retain 20% affordable housing as a condition. Somehow we need to work that in. I've seen proposals come and go where the proportion of affordable housing within a planning application seems to diminish towards the end. And it just, that's the only concern I have about the whole issue. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Pearce is very good. He picks up on lots of things because he reads the agenda a lot, doesn't he? Thank you. Just that's a compliment. Councillor Bithell.
Thank you. I've got some concerns, I think, which I think coincide with what Councillor Pearce has said. Mention is made here of the need in the area for affordable housing. There's no substantiation within the report to support that. And again, I would have thought at least we'd have received that. My concern to go deeper than that, because of course, Northern Gateway is the largest area allocated for housing development within the local development plan. So that area has taken a huge development in terms of meeting the needs of the local development plan. And again, to add another 32, is that necessary? Because again, there are certain phases of the Northern Gateway where the whole of that particular phase has been allocated for affordable housing, as it were, you know. And again, in more recent times, again, it's been indicated to us that the provision there is sufficient to meet local needs for affordable housing. So I've got an element of doubt, really, in relation to this application from that standpoint. This particular parcel of land is not allocated for housing. I guess it's a windfall site in that respect. It's something that's just come forward. But again, you know, I've got some reservations. It is right on the banks of the river there. And, you know, we're talking here. I was a bit surprised too with the condition, for example, for the section 106s, usually 1 bedroom or one two-bedroom units such as this don't usually cater for, are not really specifically catering for families with children. You know, and in that sense, is there a need for an educational contribution under Section 106? Similarly, is there a need for a play area provision in this area, even though it's not going to be on the site itself? So I've got certain reservations about this application in that sense, really. And again, I'm just concerned. I hear what the local member has had to say about this, really, in terms of the vast provision, really, for housing in this particular location of the county, in the Garden City, Sealand area. It's massive. And again, it's taken the brunt of the development within the local development plan. Is there still a need for more affordable housing here? I've got doubts about that, and it's certainly not substantiated in the report. And I'd like to see those figures myself before I particularly vote on this. And I don't know whether we can ask for a deferral for that to be provided. It would satisfy my concerns if I had those figures. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bethell. Councillor Ellis, please, online. You're next.
Thank you, Chair. My concerns are 7.15 on page 78 regarding the flood risk. And the local member had made reference in her statement to the flood risk as well. I'd just like some more information, please, on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Paul Johnson.
Thank you. It's just around the stipulation of 20%. Just to clarify, I mean, clearly 20% of 35 properties is 7. The maximum made, that's 36, that's 7.2 properties. Likewise, if I'm just wondering, when we go and say 20%, the number of houses that are constructed may not be easily divided by percentages, and you could end up with points in. So so when in our planning policy we say 20%, does that mean a minimum? Is it rounding up or rounding down? Because the housing shortage we've got at the moment, one house can make a difference. And just seeking clarity with the 20%. If it's 35, we have, so 36, and we have 7.2 being 20%, does that round up? Does it round down?
Depends if you're a golfer, really. 7.2 golf handicap would be 7. 7.6 would be 8. So, but obviously we're not talking about golf. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. I can't see any more speakers, so I'm going to bring Claire back. Obviously, Councillor Pearce asking about information on housing strategy and the need for 1 and 2 bedrooms, and there's questions over the 20% affordable housing. I'm sure you've got that down as well. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Yeah, so Councillor Pearce, yeah, we obviously went on the site visit. We looked at the site access, and the visibility will be secured by the new access and by the conditions as set out. In terms of the housing strategy, that is my mission. It should be included in there. Housing strategy were consulted on the application and came back to confirm that there is a need for affordable housing, because this is in outline at the moment. That's why the paragraph within 2.01 of the report sets out that a scheme for the affordable housing needs to be submitted as part of the Section 106. So that will secure the number of apartments. And probably I can answer Councillor Johnson actually your question in that, because the 20% is you would round down. You can't have part of a property. So if it was 7.2, it would round down to 7. But that's we would secure the affordable housing through that Section 106. We wouldn't necessarily put a condition on because it is actually secured through that 106 agreement. If the applicant considered that actually they couldn't provide affordable housing on there, the viability would have been dealt with as part of the application process, and we would have then come to the committee with the section 106 with the details that explained why they couldn't provide the requirements as set out in the LDP. So the LDP policy says a 20% affordable provision. That's what they're providing. If they then at a later stage decide they can't do that, they would need to come back and they would need to vary the outline consent. They'd need to vary that section 106 agreement. So that gives that security that actually you can't then just come and vary it because it is secured by that legal agreement that is in place. In terms of Councillor Bithell, you asked in terms of the need for housing. That is something that is obviously set out because the majority of this is market dwellings. You've got 20% affordable, but it is also market dwellings. And I think Adrian might be able to explain a little bit more. But in our LDP, it does look for smaller units. And I think Northern Gateway is across the road. It is delivering a large number of houses. It is delivering a percentage of affordable housing in that. You've got the Clwyd Allen site, which is an entirely affordable site for 100 homes. However, there's 1,400 houses being provided at Northern Gateway. And as that scheme is coming forward, there's still discussions with Betsy Cadwallader about providing walk-in centres. They're committed to providing a walk-in centre, which will provide for the entire community, not just for Northern Gateway. And there is also supermarkets and there's care homes and there's things like that. So Northern Gateway, as that's developing, that is providing some infrastructure. But in terms of 1-2 bed apartments, there isn't actually, when you go through and you look at the breakdown of housing across Northern Gateway, there isn't apartments. In terms of, you asked a question, the section 106, why is there a need for education and public open space on there? So in my report under the contributions, it does make reference to the fact that for education and for affordable housing, it is only based on the 2-bed properties. So the calculation for education has been takes that into account. So the 55,000, if they rule 2 beds, would actually be more. It's only for those 2-bed apartments to cater for a family, essentially that may occupy that. So that's why it's felt necessary to include that. Councillor Ellis, you asked about flood risk. The application has been subject to quite extensive discussion with NRW over the flood risk. The applicant has provided additional details in terms of flood plans, in terms of ensuring that NRW have got access in the event of a flood. It's all been very well considered. And there are the conclusions of the flood consequences assessment, which has been amended as part of the process, does set out the finished floor levels. It sets out the development platform, and it sets out that in relation to the surrounding Welsh Road and the sort of Riverdee embankment. And NRW are satisfied that given those flood level and given those finished floor levels at sort of 5.6. So to give you some idea, the current ground levels are between 4.3, 5.7. So actually the finished floor levels are sort of, pretty much what the existing levels are currently. And they're satisfied that actually there would be no, even in an overtopping situation where the Riverdee were to overtop, they are satisfied that the existing flood defences would be sufficient with those finished floor levels as well, that the site would remain flood-free for the lifetime of its development. I think I've answered anything, but if there's anything else, please let me know.
Yeah, just bring Matthew in a second.
Thank you, Chair. Just to build on what Claire said. So, to answer Councillor Pear's question, the section 106 is probably stronger than a condition anyway. So we have got that guarantee that the affordable housing will be provided. I think it's important as well Claire's already said, there's not a lot of provision for 1 bedrooms in the area. So this brings that need forward as well. And the main thing I think to say is that this site has been empty and falling into dereliction for a number of years now. So this is an opportunity to improve the visual appearance of this part of Garden City, and it is a it is a sustainable development. So hopefully members can get on board with it.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, I do wonder what would happen to it if this was refused. I just want to bring Adrian in, Paul. Adrian.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to make a point about this relationship between the site and the Northern Gateway site in terms of overall housing. I think we need to bear in mind that part of the plan's overall provision for housing is an allowance for windfall sites like this to come forward, sites that at the time the LDP was prepared, we couldn't identify, they weren't available, and so on. And I think we have to bear in mind that these windfall sites, they tend to be typically brownfield sites in sustainable locations. They're typically smaller in size. They offer a different product in terms of the type of housing proposed compared to larger developments. And they also tend to come forward from smaller developers. So it gives a range of developer interest within the county in terms of house building. So taking all of that into account, whilst there is housing being provided at Northern Gateway, I think overall there is support for bringing housing on a brownfield site in this location. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Adrian. Councillor Johnson, you want to come back?
Just clarification for me, that's the committee as well. What is actually meant by affordable housing, and what's the eligibility criteria? Right, well, okay, well, my point is, and what is the eligibility criteria? If this development, for example, was being discussed about a property development within Holywell, my guess would be that the bulk of people, overwhelming majority, would probably be from the Flintshire area. So I'm wondering here, a simple question, that when we're defining that affordability, we all know that there is a housing crisis very similar in Chester, and the pressure on accommodation now is very strong. Queensferry is very close to it. So I'm just wondering, when we say asking about affordability, I suppose it's like eligibility. And the question has to be made that I'm not going to, it is only for outline, but as we're going through this, who is this actually for? Is it going to be part of the Chester suburb? That's where comes the eligibility side of it, because I think there's an issue which perhaps is there. Thank you.
I mean, I've always wondered what the word affordable means, because affordable in London is a bit different than affordable around here. Councillor Bithell, you want to come back?
Yes, I forgot to mention it on. I was a bit surprised regarding the comments, I think, from the conservation officer. I thought this building or part of it was much older than what is suggested here. I've seen an old photograph, wasn't there at the time, but seen an old photograph of the opening of the original bridge, not the Bascule Bridge, is there now, about 1898, with Gladstone opening it. And there was a pub there then, I'm pretty sure. So I'm just wondering whether that pub was demolished and a new pub was built, namely the one that's there now. But I was a bit taken aback really to learn that it's as recent as the 1940s, the suggestion here. You know, I just wonder whether Claire can make any further comment on that.
Can I just say there was a plaque on the side of the hotel which said 1920, which I noticed on the site visit. So I presume that's when it was built. Claire, did you want to come back on the affordable question? Good luck.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not a housing strategy officer, so I couldn't give you a definitive so what we apply for affordable housing is there's different tenure types, so social rent, whether it's intermediate rent, whether it's shared ownership, whether it's low cost ownership. There's various different types of tenure, and that's what our housing strategy colleagues will provide on what there is a need for within that sub-market area. So within the Queensferry Garden City submarket area, they will let us know. And that is based on applicants that are on the TITEG register. So they will take that data and then they will then inform that information and provide that to us. In terms of eligibility, yeah, that comes from the TITEG register, and that comes from, it is a hierarchy scheme essentially, and it will seek to ensure that those properties are occupied and offered to people that are within the local area. And if that's not possible, then there's a hierarchy system that goes through. However, given the number of applicants on the TITEG register, then one would assume that it would be people that live within the Garden City area. But that's how that would work. Okay. Councillor Bithell, sorry, I wrote the wrong name down, sorry. Councillor Bithell, you asked about the conservation. Yeah, so the hotel, I don't have a huge amount historically of information that we've got. It does just seem to suggest that there was a building on there previously, whether it was a previous public house or something like that. The building as is now is the one that was constructed in the 1940s. So it is a more recent building. It doesn't look necessarily like it. It's never been listed, and it's never been any subject to any protection, even when perhaps historically there was more of a relationship between the hotel and the bridge. And it was mentioned when we were on the site visit, the steelworks and things like that. I think there probably would have been quite a connection between those through the years. That historical context has gone, really, unfortunately. And as the building continues to deteriorate, it will just fall into more disrepair. Yes, yeah.
Yep, thank you, Claire. I wonder why they didn't call it the Bridge Hotel, really, because it was near the bridge. I mean, as Councillor Pearce said on the site visit, I think it's actually in Garden City, not Queensferry, isn't it? That's why some people went to the wrong hotel. I don't know what the other one's called. Is it? Okay. There's no more questions. I'll go to Councillor Pearce then to sum up, please. Thanks.
Right, thank you for the interesting debate. I accept the officer's comments about there being a demonstrable need, although it's not in the report, but I think for future reference it would be useful when we talk about demonstrable need. I think we need to see the information from housing strategy. Flood risk has been mentioned, but NRW have assessed that, and they are the statutory consultee. I think the principle of development on a windfall and brownfield site is accepted. It is a redundant building that really, apart from this application, I don't think there's been any other interest, and I don't think there's any interest to actually convert the building either. So demolition is what's proposed, and I accept what Matthew said about securing the 20% under the Section 106. Incidentally, the site is also near the footway and cycleways alongside the river, so you've got sustainable connections there in active travel, in a sense. So I would just finish by saying that I move the proposals for acceptance.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased the condition was added about the demolition plan as well. I think that was important. So we'll go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. The proposition before members is to grant outline planning permission, subject to conditions, including amended condition 16, referred by the Chair, and a Section 106 agreement as set out in the officer recommendation. The three options in terms of voting: for is to grant planning permission, against is to refuse, or you can abstain. If I take the vote, Councillor Richard Lloyd.
For.
For. Councillor Mike Allport.
For.
For. Councillor Sean Bibby. For. Councillor Chris Bithell. For. Councillor Bill Crease. For. Councillor Paul Cunningham.
For.
For. Councillor Carol Ellis.
For.
For. Councillor Gladys Healy. 4. Councillor Paul Johnson. 4. Councillor Alan Marshall. 4. Councillor Billy Mullen. 4. Councillor Ted Palmer. 4. Councillor Mike Pears. 4. Thank you. Planning permission has been granted.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Okay, we're not on the 2 hours yet, so we'll plod on, should we? Agenda item 6.3, it's a full application, new standalone building to provide early years and wraparound childcare facilities with additional site improvement works at Cornish Park Primary School, Borther Flint. And it's recommended for permission, and the officer presenting the item is James Beattie. Thank you, James.
Is this full application for the erection of a wraparound children's childcare facility at a school Cornish Park in Flint?
Paul, are you okay online?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine,
okay.
I was just going to put my hand on to speak after.
Okay, I'll let the officer come in first. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, James.
If this application for the erection of a wraparound childcare facility at a school Cornish Park, Flint, the application is for the erection of a permanent standalone building to accommodate the increasing number of pupils opting to enrol in a nursery, creating an indoor and outdoor environment with the necessary accommodation for 40 early year places, suitable for children aged 2 to 3. Although given the facility's wraparound nature, there's been flexibility in the use of the facility designed in, so that the space may also be used for slightly older children for after school or breakfast clubs or for holiday childcare provision. Members will recall this application was brought to the Planning Committee meeting of the 24th of September, where it was requested by members that the operational traffic management details would be provided prior to termination rather than be required by condition. Following that meeting, discussions were held between the Highways Department, applicant and school representatives, and these details have now been provided, and Highways Development Control consider them to be acceptable. The submitted operational traffic management report sets out a number of measures that will assist in the management of traffic coming to and from the site as a result of the proposal, in order to ensure that no further pressures are added to the existing highways issues. Indeed, it's considered that the measures will assist in the existing situation and help to ease existing pressures as well. The plan confirms that the school gates will be open from 7:15 in the morning and remain open throughout the entirety of the school day, allowing parents to use the parking facilities on the school site. This is a change from the previous situation and will stop some of the existing issues of traffic congesting on the cul-de-sac approach to the school gates, which were previously left closed. Drop-off and pick-up times for the facility, subject to this application, are outside of the peak times for the main school. The drop-off and pick-up times will be promoted to parents through social media and the school's email system. Procedures around drop-off and pick-ups will be highlighted in the welcome pack the parents are given when they register their children in the childcare setting. By having the school gates remain open throughout the day, parents will be able to take advantage of the extensive parking infrastructure at the school and avoid parking causing further congestion on the surrounding streets. The construction traffic management plan has previously been agreed with the Highways Department, and this ensures that any traffic generated by the construction period will not add to existing pressures. It's therefore considered that the management of additional traffic in accordance with the submitted details will ensure that the addition of the proposed new childcare facility will have no negative impacts on the pre-existing parking issues that surround the site, but will in fact have a positive impact on the current situation, as parents will now be able to have access to the school's parking infrastructure unimpeded throughout the day, thus removing the need for parents to park on the surrounding streets. The application is considered to be acceptable in policy terms with regards to its scale, design and siting, which were discussed in the last meeting, and is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the listed conditions in paragraph 2.01 in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, James. We just take the plan off the screen. That's okay. Byra Fawkes, you're online. Would you like to just come in and just tell us a bit more about the early years wraparound childcare facilities at the school? Thank you.
Thank you. Flintshire County Council's early years in childcare and the capital team, which managed by myself, I've been pursuing the construction of the structurally insulated panel building, which we call a SIP building, that will be co-located on the school grounds of the Cornish School since 2023. This project is 100% funded through the Welsh Government's large capital programme 22 to 25, and will see the creation of additional 40 childcare spaces become available in Flint. Flint has been identified through the childcare sufficiency assessment as a lack in childcare which is a statutory duty for a local authority to provide sufficient and sustainable childcare places in Flintshire. The area of Cornerston, or Corners CP in particular, has been selected as there are no childcare provision for local families to choose from, with closest childcare provider being located across town and along many busy roads. I'm not going to go on too much, but I would like to say our team, with the Welsh Government grant, we have built 11 childcare buildings since 2029 throughout the Flintshire. The projects are greatly welcomed by the schools, parents, and the childcare workforce. So right now we are just waiting for the planning permission, and this is the deferred item today. So if any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry, for that information. It's very, very useful. Thank you. Next, we just have some late observations on this one. I'll just ask Matthew to read through those. Thanks.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So a late observation from Flint Town Council. So they say members are concerned about the narrow nature of the surrounding roads and the potential disruption that construction traffic could cause to local residents and road users. The council therefore requests that Flintshire County Council designates a specific route for all construction vehicles accessing the site and restricts vehicle movement times to avoid school start and finish times. In response, we say that the submitted construction traffic management plan and operational management plan submitted address these concerns. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. We do have a statement to be read out from Flint Town Council. Is it pretty similar to the late observations, I presume?
It's pretty much the same.
Okay, I'll let you. Do you want to read that out as well?
So these are representations that have come from Flint Town Council. Flint Town Council wishes to comment on the above planning application. Members are concerned about the narrow nature of the surrounding roads and the potential disruption that construction traffic could cause to local residents and road users. The council therefore requests that Flintshire County Council designates a specific route for all construction vehicles accessing the site and restricts vehicle movement times to avoid school start and finish times.
Okay, thank you again, Matthew. Okay, we have the local member who apologise, she couldn't be here today, but sent us Councillor Michelle Perfect, and we have a statement from Michelle.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So Councillor Perfect says, I would like to wholeheartedly support this application. The building of this facility is greatly needed within our town and specifically at the school itself. I will also mention that as a school governor at the school, I wish to declare an interest in this application. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, I'm after a proposition. Councillor Cunningham, you've got your hand up. You want to put a proposition forward? You're on mute, Paul.
I keep having trouble with my fingers moving things around, Chair, so I apologise. Yes, I would move that we accept the plan and go forward with it. I did have some reservations.
Paul, sorry, can I stop you? I just need a seconder first. Can I have, who said that? Councillor Bithell, thank you. Okay, carry on, Paul.
Yeah, I did have some reservations at first about the traffic management going back and forwards to the school. Although I sit on Flint Town Council, I always leave when anything comes up with planning, because I don't want to get involved in case it causes conflict with this sort of meeting. But I did notice that Flint Town Council did raise objections about the transport of heavy vehicles going back and through, and that is a concern. Another concern that I had, Chair, was I've had phone calls from residents about the parking issues outside the school. Currently, Cornish School now, some of the people who park their cars have great disrespect for the neighbours who live round there. and some of the language to the neighbours is very choice and not very nice. So I did have a problem with that, but seeing that the school gates are going to be open for some time and the drop-off points are at different times, then I'm quite happy to accept the proposal, and I formally move that we accept, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Bithell as the second. Have you got anything to add, please?
I'm pleased to second this. I think it'll be a great facility for the school and for the area, and in that sense, it's a very welcome development. Just one or 2 points, if I may. Mention has been made by Councillor Cunningham under 707 regarding the school gates, which are going to be left open. Now, that does cause me some concern because, again, school gates are there for a purpose, A, to stop children, young children, wandering off through the gates, and indeed to stop undesirables coming onto the premises. I'm just wondering whether there's a further set of gates on the property to stop that and enable the actual cars of parents and so on to enter the site. If I could just have a clearance on that, please. And could I just comment, if I may, on the comments of the Betsy Cadwallader University Health Board, which appear on page 89. I'm really taken aback by the comments here. We don't usually get comments from Betsy Cadwallader. And again, the comments they make here, with due respect, I think, are the kind of comments we would get from our own planning officers and our own education officers, rather than from Betsy Cadwallader. And the kind of things we'd like to know from Betsy Cadwallader on the comments they make is, basically, can they facilitate medical facilities in that area, doctors and surgeries and so on and so forth, and dentists to meet local needs, particularly where new housing developments take place. We don't get that. That's exactly what we need. I think it's been raised on earlier applications today, really, in that sense. But I'm really taken aback by their comments. A, we don't normally get them. B, these are really, in my mind, totally unnecessary in these circumstances, because these are well covered by our own planning officers and education department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bithell. Yeah, I can see exactly where you're coming from there. Yeah. We don't get the information we need. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Chair. I have printed off the operational traffic management plan, which has been included in this application, which wasn't there last month. That's in response to members' requests. And if you recall, the third-party speaker last month advised us about the traffic on the road outside of the school. So the basic question is, does this plan resolve those issues? And will parking restrictions be in place on that road at school times? I have to say that condition 5 on page 87 is a bit vague. Well, I'm being generous when I say a bit vague. Facilities shall be provided and retained within the site for the parking and turning of vehicles. Now, am I correct in thinking there's going to be a one-way system where traffic come in and go out? We're talking about 50 parking spaces in the operational traffic management plan. But are these actually pick up, drop off and pick up bays? Because if we have people accessing the site in line with this operation traffic management plan, I would have thought they're just basically dropping off and picking up. So we've got 50 parking bays. So, and with parking bays, if you drive in, you have to reverse out, and is there segregation between the children and this car park, these parking spaces? I share Councillor Bithell's view about the security, having the gates open all day. We're all governors or being governors of schools, and now quite a lot, certainly in Buckley, the area I represent. If you're not in by 9 o'clock, you have to ring the bell and they vet you, and then the electronic gate opens. So with this gate being left open, does it still make the school and its grounds secure? And does it segregate the parking from a security of the school? In 709, it talks again about the spaces. Let me scroll to that, please. Yeah, it says there are currently a total of 50 parking bays. Has that been just, how's that been worked out? Has the parent demand been looked at to allocate the number of parking spaces, or is it set on a set criteria? I'm okay with the principle of this. We have got an operational traffic management plan, which we didn't have before. Yeah, so if you just answer those questions. It would have been useful to have a plan on the screen to show us the vehicles coming in, where the parking spaces are, and then the vehicles going out. Do we have anything like that at all?
Do we have a plan of that?
We have it.
We've got that on. Actually, the question was raised this morning by Councillor Healy, wasn't it, about the gates? And yeah, you know, obviously the children are the most important. And I know Broughton School, where I drop my grandson off, sometimes they close the gates prior, and then when they're picking up, they close them again, and they don't allow any traffic movement until about 3:30. Not knowing that, I got caught in there once, but I did agree that they were doing the right thing for the safety of the children, because they were all over the place. Okay. Have we got that? Yeah. Is that helpful, Councillor Pearce?
It is a one-way system? Because, yeah,
I'll bring the officer in to answer that.
I think it would be useful if you had some road markings and arrows to say it's one way. You come in at the top, come down on the right, and then out again, can't you? So I think if that was a one-way system, I think it'd be a lot better, although it's not indicated on there.
Okay, shall I bring highways in, or James? Okay, James.
Yeah, I can't really see, if you see on that plan, at the access point, there is actually arrows. So it is a one-way system. And obviously, as part of the construction transport management plan as well, because obviously they're going to have to, they're going to be construction traffic coming through as well. So that will be slightly modified. But the normal setup, you have that first kind of in-out system to the with the mini roundabout. So that would be the parents would use that. The further one near the school, I think the staff use that primarily. What I would say as well is worth bearing in mind, obviously we're the applications for just the one facility. So actually, because that's for very small children, I think it'd be like usual, the parents would actually park to walk them in. That's obviously not a consideration earlier on, so really what we're doing, we're in the main, we're looking at the new facility and how that will make things better or worse. And I think the operational management system does make it a betterment. As a kind of byproduct of that, although that's not really the purpose of this application, we're improving the situation as well currently, which is a problem. If you're aware, if you know the site at all, that's a cul-de-sac really coming in. So you can imagine with the gates closed, people will be parking on that road, which is a problem, I think, and as the gentleman who came to the last meeting did demonstrate, it is a problem for residents there. This should take that out. In terms of, Councillor Pearce did ask about the numbers as well. So the site's been set out with, I think it's 50 spaces. The SPGN, the parking standards, actually only requires 29 for the size of the school. So that's based on the floor areas and that kind of thing. So they've got an oversubscription, I think, because of the size of they're available. So they've set them out there. The benefit of that is it does leave these extra spaces. So how that's managed will be largely down to the school. But there is the scope there to allow for some parking as well as the general drop off. I think most people will probably be driving in, dropping off, and driving out. But the school will have to manage that obviously as an ongoing kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of the facility that is part of this application, I think particularly because they're mostly going to be outside of that peak time, and I think you'll probably get parents parking and walking the children in. So it does give us that kind of confidence, really, that document. I think hopefully that's answered the question without. I mean, Sue obviously could probably bring in more, but I think hopefully that's sufficient.
Yeah, I think there was concerns about with the gates being left about the security. but there is presumably, you did say this morning that it's not a high gate, and you could climb over it. But there are extra security, you know, as you get into the school grounds, presumably, obviously, like most schools.
Yeah, I think at all schools nowadays, there's the security actually when you get to the building is kind of much more heightened than it used to be the case. You know, when you get to a school with defensible areas, you can't get beyond certain doors and that kind of thing. So here we have the fairly modern school, actually something in the 90s, the existing school. So you can't get beyond the reception, and again, the facility subject to this application is manageable. And really, again, that's a school management issue rather than this planning issue. As I've got the mic, Councillor Biddle did ask about, or did mention about the Betsy Cadwallader comments, and I'd agree. Really, they've kind of put forward a lot of considerations, but they're not necessarily things that are relevant to this application. But it's things that we'll consider during the making the recommendation. But I take your point there.
Yeah, they didn't actually come up and say they're going to provide another health facility for the area, did they? Now, has that covered everybody's queries, Councillor Johnson?
Thank you. Right, let's go back to my screens. Okay, first thing is, I think this is a very, very important development. I think anybody who's visited any of the schools that or units like this, which this county has developed and built and put forward, like the current one at Crozati, will realise the high standard it's going to be and how it's going to be delivering amazing facilities for the children, the parents and children, particularly of Flint. So I'm all in favour of it. However, I do notice the observations that the constant observations from Flint Town Council on here. Now, again, looking at personal experience, not quite the same, but we have quarry traffic driving through the village, and as a councillor, I've had to deal with it with quarry traffic driving parts of my ward. So I do understand the importance of having construction traffic following certain routes, and it does say the town council are concerned about the narrow nature of surrounding roads. It's quite clear that they are. That it does make a specific route for all construction vehicles and restrict. Okay, now it is talking about construction traffic. I'm just wondering whereabouts, because I may be missing this, and if I am, I do apologise. But it says it's the operational management plan submitted address these concerns. Has there been a specific route to prevent rat running by vehicle, by construction traffic been set up? And as part of that, for example, because you know, as soon as you go and get a specific route to go on, the time where you're going to be delivering it is when streets are down there doing recycling visits. And those roads will be blocked up both by construction traffic and bin wagons.
I'll just bring Matthew and I'll answer that. Thanks.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm probably jumping in front of James. Sorry, I should have allowed him to answer the question. We already have the construction management plan. It's already been submitted. As part of that plan, the construction routes are already detailed in it. It's not conditioned because we've already had it up front. So it forms part of the list of documents that we've already, that will be approved if this scheme is granted planning permission. And then the operational management plan, that deals with the specific issues that members raised at the previous committee that you wanted to see before you made the decision.
And to just confirm that the constructors will be aware when street scene are doing their recycling run, because that, of course, may have it. I'm sure that the local councillors, much of the way they are in support of this, will find their inboxes and their text messages absolutely overflowing.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add there, James?
Yes, thanks. I mean, I think Matthew did answer that, but I would just say on that final point. Obviously, we're the applicants here, so you know, it's and I think we can take comfort the fact that as Ms. Fowkes mentioned earlier, we delivered 11 of these across the county and also whole schools. so I think the education team are now quite good at that kind of thing. But you know, as we're the applicants, we certainly will take account of that.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Cunningham, as the proposer, we'd like to sum up now, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've said everything, all that I wanted to say, and I would move the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Okay, then, with that said, we'll move to the vote, please, Susan.
Proposition before members is to grant planning permission subject to conditions in accordance with the recommendations set out in the officer's report. The three options in terms of voting: for is to grant planning permission, against is to refuse, or you can abstain. If I take the vote, Councillor Richard Lloyd. For. Councillor Michael Report. For. Councillor Sean Bibby. For. Councillor Chris Bithell. For. Councillor Bill Crease. For. Councillor Paul Cunningham.
For.
Councillor Carol Ellis. For. Councillor Gladys Healy. For. Councillor Paul Johnson. For. Councillor Alan Marshall. For. Councillor Billy Mullen. For. Councillor Ted Palmer. For. Councillor Mike Pearce. For. That proposition has been carried. Granted.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll be closing the meeting now, but if members could just stay online and obviously in the room, I just want to bring David Fitzsimon in just to say a few words. So I'll close the meeting now. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm mindful that we've had a 2-hour session, and I'm sure you want to get off. So please just indulge me for a couple of minutes, if you will.